No matter what, people will commit to misunderstanding you. What's most important is your commitment to understanding yourself. Hello, you guys. My name is Nkirka Madani. Everyone pretty much knows me as NK at this point. My parents call me NK. Everyone in my life calls me NK. You can try to say my full name, but NK is short and sweet and works just fine. I am recording my very first episode of my podcast. Wow, I'm excited. I'm a little nervous, but this has been in the making for a while. And when I say a while, the very first time I wrote down in my journal that I wanted to start a podcast was in 2022, the end of 2022. I said, I have so much lived experience. I have so much to share, and I want to share that on a larger scale. Fast forward. We are in 2025. So this has been a dream and a thought for 3 years. And not only that, I've had a mixture of strangers to my best friends saying, you know what, you would be really good on a podcast. Every single time you speak, every single time you have something to say, it is said with so much conviction, it is said with so much love, and it is said with a lot of empathy. You have great insight, you are very intuitive, and all of that really helps me realize that I am more than just an average person. I have a lot to offer the world, and I want to start actively living my life in the ways that make me happy, which is where Misunderstood came into fruition. I wanted this to be a space where whoever is listening can find solace and find comfort in knowing that being misunderstood is very common, but it is not something that should define you. You get to define how you live your life. You get to define how you step into the world. And you can also decide to change that at any moment in time. No one dictates who you are. That's you. You get to decide. This podcast, I really want it to be a space where I can come on here very, very candidly as I am and talk with you guys for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. I don't want these to be super long, but I want them to be very intentional. I want to bring you guys real advice and takeaways that you can actually apply in your life, and mantras and ways of thinking of things a little differently. Because if I had somebody who I could look up to even 3-4 years ago, I know that I would have been better off. I learned a lot of what I know on my own through lived experiences, as well as being in really shitty places in my life, mentally and physically, and really hating myself for a large portion of my 20s. I'm 30 also, by the way. If you're new here, if you do not know who I am, I'm 30 years old, newly 30 years old. So this will also give you some insight on that side of my world and that side of my life to really let you know that life is literally just beginning and we have so many chapters of life. I wanted to really take you guys through all of the inner workings of my brain because I have a lot of things that I can share, that I will share. Some things might be really intimate. Some things might be very crazy. And some things might make you cry. Or really me, I'm talking about myself. I am a very emotional person and I say a lot of things with my chest, but I never say anything that I don't mean. So happy that you guys are here. Welcome to episode 1, and we are just going to get started. So whenever I have an idea of something I want to talk about, I just write it down. I literally have my notes app on my phone, and let me actually just look at how many notes I have. It's probably so many. Let's see. I feel like I have more than that. I have 2,152 notes on my phone. For some reason, I thought I had way more, but maybe I'm referring to my photo album, which is almost at 200,000 photos and videos. I know, that's a lot. But back to the notes. In my notes app, I write down everything that I'm feeling. It is my brain dump. It is where I can just go and write down every little thought that I have. So I have collected a ton of different statements, words, quotes that people have told me to my face, or people have written in a text message to me that I know somebody will sympathize with. I know somebody will understand in some degree. I also want to say I have been labeled, mislabeled, mistreated, and misunderstood misunderstood for most of my life. This podcast is called Misunderstood simply because that is the word that when I think of myself and categorize myself, I can say so many things, but one thing I know to be true is that so many people misunderstand me. So many people want to label me as the Black girl who talks white, or the girl who's a tryhard, or the girl who hasn't found her person, hasn't found love, or the girl who gets frustrated and angry too easily, or the girl who has been in New York for 2 years and still feels like she's lost and trying to find her way. I can literally keep on going, but for the sake of this episode, I will stop there. But I have been mislabeled and misunderstood my entire life. And it's tough. I'm someone who really wants to be understood. I'm someone who really wants people to see me for me. I want to be seen in ways that I wasn't as a kid. And I think it's really important for me to go back in time to clue you guys in on my origin story. I was born and raised in Seattle, Washington, specifically Federal Way, Washington. Some people don't understand that Federal Way is probably like 25 minutes away from Seattle. So I do claim Seattle, and I believe I can for that reason. But Federal Way, Washington is actually where I grew up. That's where my childhood home is still to this day. I then moved to California, San Francisco, when I was 18. So the first 18 years of my life, I was in Federal Way, Washington. If you don't know, Federal Way is a pretty predominantly white community. I went to Catholic, Jesuit, private schools, K through 12. I was surrounded by people who did not look like me. I am a Black woman, and every single grade of every single year of schooling, I probably only had one or two other people who looked like me. And actually, half of the time, it was just me. It was just me. There was no one who I could turn to feel comfort with my identity. So I had to learn that on my own. That was tough. My parents, which I will dedicate an entire episode to my parents and my upbringing, because that really shaped who I was. But I was doing a lot of that learning on my own. It was scary. It was hard. I was bullied for being Black. I was bullied for having my hair in braids. I was bullied for looking dark, for being muscular when I was younger because I was in sports at a very young age for most of my childhood. I was bullied for so many things. And I couldn't catch a break. Like, have you been in that situation where you just can't catch a break? You are pinpointed, you are dissected, and no one really knows who the fuck you are. They want to label you. They want to decide who you are in their head. They want to categorize you. And this is all before you even open your mouth. You don't get a say. And I think that's the really hard part of how I grew up. I didn't feel like I was living for myself until I left Washington, until I broke away from the mold that I was put under. Because when we think about it, from K through 18, we are still minors. So we're still under the supervision of our parents. And I didn't get a lot of say. I didn't get to decide what I wanted to do for those first 18 years. And that was tough. I felt this burning need to be an individualist. I wanted to express myself, but I was often suppressed in that effort. Looking back, that's something I hated the most about how I grew up. That's something I hated the most about my childhood. There was so much that I knew that I loved and I could have done, but society made me feel like that was wrong. Society made me feel like I needed to fall in line or get out. And I know there's so many people who feel this way, who feel suppressed, who feel lonely, who feel like they are around people and they still feel alone. That is what the first 18 of my years felt like. And that is the shittiest feeling. So you bet your ass I took the very first opportunity to get on a plane and leave the state that I grew up in. I learned about California in high school. I learned about why California is exciting and why California was fun. And mind you, I was 18. So as much as I knew I needed to leave to really start my life, I wasn't ready to go super far. California is probably a 2-hour flight from Seattle. So it's not that far, San Francisco in specific. So I knew that this would be a good first step for me. My parents Well, my mom didn't want me to go for her own reasons, but my dad was definitely very encouraging. So that was helpful. And I went. I will be so honest when I say that that decision changed the trajectory of my life. If I did not get on that plane and if I did not commit and say yes to the University of San Francisco, I would have stayed living a life that felt like it wasn't mine. I would have stayed living a life that I wasn't meant to live because I was too scared of breaking away from the mold that people put me in. The fact that I got on that plane and came to San Francisco, that felt like the first day of living my life for myself. And 10 years later, a whole decade, I spent a whole decade in San Francisco. I learned so much about myself. I experimented with a lot of things, and maybe I'll get into those little things in another episode. I'm going to keep this one pretty PG, but I think living those 10 years in San Francisco, it gave me perspective. It gave me autonomy. It gave me a will to live. I will be honest. It gave me a will to live. It gave me a reason to keep on going. I made friends. I lost friends. We will talk about friends in detail in many future episodes, but I was living for myself finally for the first time in my life. And that feeling cannot be matched. And now I am in New York City. I'm sitting in my New York City apartment, my second New York City apartment. The way my life has taken twists and turns to get to where I am has both blown me away and terrified me all at the same time. But I realize there's so much to be said about continuing the fight when you feel hopeless, when you feel scared. I feel as though I needed to get on here in a big way, which is why this podcast has come into fruition to speak in the ways that I know somebody and hopefully many people will not only understand, but feel comforted in. I have so many life experiences that I know are not unique, meaning a lot of people experience them, but to shed light on them is really important. The human experience is interesting in that we all live independent lives, but our lives are actually way more similar to each other's than we think. And it just takes one person to share how they feel and the floodgates open. I am always so impressed and so happy when I find people who speak their truth and speak their mind. I have always been that way, but I think I have played it safe still in a lot of ways. And I'm so ready to share more. I'm so ready to live out loud more. Because when I do that, I am the happiest that I ever have been when I choose to be more open and more transparent and share things that I know other people are experiencing. What I want to leave you with today in this very first episode is the mantra or the statement or the quote that you deserve to be heard. You deserve to be heard. For all my girlies, and if any guys are listening to this applies to anybody, but if you feel misunderstood, you deserve to be heard in the ways that you feel matters to you. And for me, that is this podcast where I will show up once a week to share a life experience and to share words that I know will resonate with people because we all deserve to be heard. And a way that I know that I can do that for you guys is coming on here, speaking my truth, and knowing that people understand what I'm saying and people literally have lived through the things I'm saying. That means that you're being heard too, because I understand you and I get what you're going through. So no matter who in your life is misunderstanding you, just know you have someone here that understands exactly who you are. And I understand exactly how you feel. And I want to be there for you. I want to be your cheerleader. I don't want you to give up. Looking back, if I gave up all those years ago, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have this platform to be speaking unapologetically about how I feel, unapologetically about who I am. It's so important for me to have a space where I feel that I can just exist, but not only exist, really lean into who I am. We all deserve that. We all deserve to be seen. We all deserve to be heard. So I hope that Misunderstood is a place that you can feel solace. I hope Misunderstood is a place where you can feel heard. My name is Nkirka Madani, known as NK. So happy that you tuned into episode 1. I hope you join me every single week. I haven't decided what day I'm going to be uploading, but once I decide, it will be that day every single week. So you can always look forward to that. If you're on social media, I would love for you to go hang out with me on my other socials. It's NK Madani on all platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest. I also have a blog. If anyone who's listening loves blogs, that's actually where I started. That's my origin story. And don't you worry, I must go through that because I know so many people will really resonate with how I got to exactly where I am and how I am literally sitting here in my own New York City apartment and doing this on my own. Everything will be talked about. Every single thing. Don't you worry. So, with that said, again, thank you guys. I'm really excited for this journey. I think this is going to be a really beautiful season of life for me and you. And we're starting 2025 off with a bang. Okay? A bang. I will talk to you guys in my next one.